Hey guys, we're going to be talking about measurement for the next few lessons. So I just wanted to review with you guys a ruler. If you have one of these at your home, please find it. We're going to be using it, okay? So just a reminder that we've got 1 inch. Make sure you're on the side that is the inches. It'll usually go to 12 inches because that is 1 foot. Make sure you're not on this side today. Okay, this is the metric side and this shows centimeters. Today we're talking about customary, and so we'll be on the inches side. Okay, so you can see that you have 1 inch, 2 inches, and then inside the inch, they give us, oh, the camera's backwards on me. They give us little slashes that show within. So find the halfway mark. It's the biggest. So you see that this inch is actually a fraction. That would be 1/2 inch. And that would be 2 out of 2 halves, which would be 1 inch. Then the next ones are our fourths. So then we see 1/4. The half would be 2/4, 3/4, and 1 inch. Okay, if I were to go right here, I'd have 1 inch, my whole number, and then I'd have 1/4 of the next inch, but not a full. So I'd have 1 and 1/4. So I'd have a mixed number. So we're going to be working with fractions a little bit as we measure, because our measurements aren't always going to be exactly 2 inches. They're not always going to be exactly 6 inches. We'll see variations, okay? So we're going to be using those fractions. You ready for the lesson now? Okay, guys. Here is our measurement lesson. Oh, that's just for me, sorry. What is measurement? So measurement is when we are recording the amount of something. We can study customary measurement or metric measurement. These measurement systems are very different, just so you know. We're going to be talking about customary today. Customary measurement. So we measure length, the distance between 2 points. Customary units of measure are an inch, a foot, a yard, and a mile. Metric system, which is a global measurement system, is measured in millimeters, centimeters, meters, and kilometers. And you can see that I've included the abbreviations for those. We also can measure capacity, which would be how much a container can hold. So I'm going to just review that. The length is the distance between 2 points. That's what we're measuring. And capacity, we're measuring how much something can hold instead of how far something is. So our customary system, which is in the US, we see those measurements as fluid ounce, a cup, a pint, a quart, and a gallon. And you're hopefully familiar with some of those, specifically the cup and the gallon you've probably seen in your homes and used in cooking. The metric system, which is global, is milliliters and liters. Something else we can measure is weight, which is how heavy an object is. Again, ounce, pound, tons are the customary system. The metric is gram and kilograms, and you've probably seen those on food products. Okay, let's start with customary length. That's what we're going to be focusing on today, which is a little bit of what I already told you. If you want to know, the page for this in your book is 585. We're not going to be using the book a ton today, but just so you know, that is the page that it's found in the book if you want to review it. So this is showing us kind of what a ruler might look like. Which again, this might be 0 right here, and this might be 1 inch right here. This big long line is going to be our half. This one right here, the next 2 lines that are the same length, the next biggest one are going to be our fourth mark. So the first one's going to be our 1/4 mark, and the next one's going to be our 3/4 mark, not our 2/4 mark, because 2/4 is equal to 1/2, so our 2/4 mark is still that 1/2. Our next lines, we're just going to break it in half again. So these ones, you'll notice how they are all the same length except for the 1/2 is a little bit longer, but you can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those, but we're also going to include our 4th and our finish line. So you can see that we have those lines. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So these are our 8s. So we've got 1/8. This 1/4 would be 2 8s. So then we've got 3 8s. 1/2 would be 4 8s. Then we've got 5 8s. 3/4 would be 6 8s. And then 7 8s. And then this one right here, this would be 8 8s, which is also equal to 1. So right there we can see our fractions. And then you can probably guess that if we were to then go to our next smallest lines, we're going to just cut it in half again. Now remember, we've got to include the bigger lines we've already used. So we've got to use our 8s and our 4ths and our half. And you can see that now those are all evenly spaced. And since we cut them in half, they're just going to be our 16ths. So we'd see the same thing again, 1/16, whereas this one is 1/8. Then we would see 3/16. This one was 1/4, which would be 4/16. Then we're going to go to 5/16. This one was one of our 8s. This was our 3 8s, right? So you can see that we're going to go all the way. This one would be our 7/16, and our half would be 1/2 or 8/16, right? And we would continue all the way up to the end with that. So just a refresher on how we do that, okay? All right. Customary length. 1 foot, 2 feet, 3 feet. 3 feet equals 1 yard. Just so you know, remember that 3 feet equals 1 yard. You might want to write that down. Okay, you might want to write this one down as well. 5,280 feet equals 1 mile. 5,280 feet equals 1 mile. 1 yard equals 3 feet. One other that for some reason I didn't get included here is that 1 ton equals, oh, tons. That's because we're not doing tons yet. That's embarrassing. Those are the ones you need to know. So let's practice measuring. I have an ant here, and I need to measure it. So I'm going to find its nearest mark, like that, to find out where I need to measure that guy at. That looks like I made the line a little bit to the side of the ant, so I'm going to go back to that next line. So it's not a full 1 inch. I'm going to say that it probably is a little bit less than that 1 inch. I'm going to maybe zoom in. Hopefully that's zooming in for you guys too. I don't know. That's so I can write it a little bit closer, right at the edge of the antenna. There we go. That looks better. Then I'm just going to go ahead and count. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I can count every single line because I noticed that I ended on a small line, which means that I'm using every single one. So 7, so that means this ant is going to be 7/8 of an inch, okay? Then if I were to come to my alligator, I really hope this is zooming in and out for you guys. My alligator. I can do the same thing, kind of see where he's at. It looks like he is right below 3 yards because we can see that this is 1 yard, 2 yard, 3 yards, and I can tell because if you look really closely, that right there says 12 inches. So I can tell that those are 3 feet, which is 1 yard, but it looks like he's just a little bit less. So I'm going to say he's 2 feet. And it looks like he is at about the 11 and a half inches. And that's how I would write that, okay? All right. Let's go back to normal here. Here's our next one. We can kind of see the same thing. I'd make my line. That looks like it's about 3 3/4 inches. My cool little fish guy. And if you look closely, I drew the line a little bit over because it's more difficult on the screen, but that looks like it's just about at 5.5 inches. Okay, so that's how we do that. The most important thing for you guys though is to review this and memorize this. How many inches equal a foot, how many feet equal a yard, and how many feet are in 1 mile. Okay, that is something you need to remember. So how many inches are in a foot? I wish we were together and I'd ask you all this question and we would review and practice until I knew that you knew it. So you've got to remember 12 inches equals 1 foot, 3 feet equals 1 yard, and there are 5,280 feet in 1 mile. Okay, converting customary length. Sometimes when you measure something, it is smaller or bigger than the tool you are using. You will need to know how to convert between the units. Convert means to change. Sometimes when you measure something, it is smaller or bigger than the tool you are using. You will need to know how to convert between units. For example, how many hours are in a day? Hours and day are different units of measure. But we know that there are 24 hours in a day. How many days are in a week? Again, we have different there. We have 24 days are measured by 24 hours and weeks are measured by days. So there's 7 days in a week, but there's only 1 day in a day. So we've got to look at that. How many hours are in a week? Same thing. We measure week by days. We measure hours by minutes. Okay, so you've got to check that. Sometimes though, when you measure something, it is smaller or bigger than the tool you are using. You'll need to know how to convert between units. For example, how many hours are in a day, how many days are in a week, how many hours are in a week. If you did that, you just converted between 2 units. These units are equivalent to each other. That means they're equal even if the unit is measured differently, okay? So go ahead and write this down on a piece of paper in your math notebook maybe. We've got converting customary length. This will help you. The L stands for large and the S stands for small. So if you have a unit of measure that is larger than what you're trying to go to, you will multiply to get the smaller number, okay? If you start with the smaller unit of measure and you want to find out the larger unit, you're going to go this way, which means that you will divide to find the correct answer. Okay, go ahead and write that down. If you need to pause the video, you can. So question, how many feet are in 5 miles? And right here, I've got my information that I have memorized down. 12 inches equals a foot, 3 feet equals 1 yard, 5,280 feet equals 1 mile, okay? So the first thing we need to do is write our question. Our question is how many feet are in miles. So I'm going to write it like a problem. 5 miles equals blank feet, okay? My next little area, write the units you're working with. We're working with miles and feet. So I'm going to write 1 mile equals 5,280 feet. Refer to our handy chart. So draw your little chart. Large to small, I multiply. Small to large, I divide. Okay? Large to small, I multiply. Small to large, I divide. Okay? And then we're going to convert and solve. So it says large to small multiply. How did it decide we were going large to small though? The reason is because we're going to look right here. It's given me 5 miles and I need to know the feet. Are feet bigger or are miles bigger? Miles are way bigger than feet. 5 miles is way longer to walk than 5 feet. So 5 miles is larger than feet. So I know that this is my large and this is my small. So because I'm going large to small, I multiply. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do there. So 5 times 5,280 feet would equal 26,400 feet. Okay, so to do that, they just went ahead and multiplied the amount of feet that are in 1 mile by how many miles we had, just like that. Okay. Question, how many feet are in 5 miles? 5 miles equals, oh, we just finished that. So 5 miles equals 26,400 feet. It just gave it to me again. Okay, how many yards are in 28 feet? We've got 28 feet. We're going to write the question equals blank yards. So let's go ahead and decide that right now. Are feet small or are yards small? So if I had 28 yards, that's a lot farther than feet because in every single one of those yards, there's 3 feet. So in this one, we're starting with our small, okay? Then my next one, I'm going to write the units that I'm working with. 3 feet equals 1 yard. And remember, we've got small and big. Refer to our handy chart. So you'll go ahead and write your chart. Large to small, I multiply. Small to large, I divide. Okay, and we decided I'm going small to large, so I'm going to divide 28 feet divided by 3 feet. And I've got that 3 feet up there. That's going to tell me how many yards. So 28 feet equals 9 yards and 1 foot. So when they did that one, I'm going to go ahead and write that. We took 28 divided by 3 and put it into our algorithm. 3 goes into 2 0 times. So 3 goes into 28 9 times. 9 times 3 is 27. I subtract, I get 1 remainder, but I'm going to write it as 9 yards and 1 foot. Right? Because if I had 2 here, then that means I would have had 2 feet extra. And if I had, okay, I got cut off a little bit. So just back to that, if we had 3 feet, that would have meant that's a whole nother yard. So when we have 1 remainder, it means we have 1 foot remaining, okay? The last one we're going to do is Luisa's favorite soccer player is 6 feet 7 inches tall. How tall is the soccer player in inches? First, I'm going to write my question. We're wondering how tall he is in just inches. He's 6 feet 7 inches, and I want to know how many inches is that. So we're going to write the units we're working with. We are working with inches and feet, so we're working with this one right there. So I'm going to write that. 1 foot equals 12 inches. And notice how I wrote the foot first because I'm going big to small. Even though this one's written 12 inches, 1 foot, I'm going to start with 1 foot to remind myself I'm going large to small. Large to small, I multiply, right? And on here, large to small, I multiply, small to large, I divide. Okay, now we're going to convert and solve. Since I'm going to large to small, I multiply. I'm going large to small because foot is larger than an inch, okay? So I'm going to go 6 times 12 for my 12 inches in each of those 6 feet equals 72 inches. Then I have to add on that 7 inches that I already had, plus the extra 7 inches. So 6 feet 7 inches equals 79 inches. The favorite soccer player is 79 inches tall. So your challenge today is to find out how tall you are in feet and inches and yards. None of you are taller than a mile, so don't figure that out. But go ahead and figure out how tall you are in feet, inches, and yards. Hopefully you have some sort of measuring device. If you don't, a normal size piece of paper is 11 inches. That's 11 inches, okay? So you can use a regular size piece of paper and add, guess about an inch to kind of measure. It won't be exactly, and you won't be able to do like the fractions of the inch, but then you can kind of take a guess of at least how many yards you are. Like, are you a full yard, or are you a yard and a half? Are you a yard and 1 foot? Go ahead and try and find out how tall you are. And when you do, you can make a comment or turn in make a document and turn that in on Google Classroom. You can also, the other assignment you have is you have to get on Alex, and you have 5 questions on Alex that you need to do. Just 5 questions on what we just did on converting customary lengths of measure. If you are on 6th grade Alex and you cannot get access to that assignment, I want you to go to page 589 in the book, and I want you to pick 7 questions and do them, okay? So again, that's page 589 in the book. I want you to pick 7 questions and do them. If you are in 5th grade Alex, you need to just log into Alex and do the assignment that shows up. And then you need to do your normal 15 minutes of Alex, okay? Super job today. Remember, you need to memorize 12 inches equals 1 foot, 3 feet equals 1 yard, 5,280 feet equals 1 mile, okay? Super, and we will see you guys later.